Now this week, we have a question which often comes up on many occasions. And this question is about forgiveness. Okay. It says, when should one forgive? Are all actions forgivable? Is there really anything like akshamya aparada, which means unforgivable action? How should we forgive so that we detach and attain mental equanimity while ensuring the other person does not get the warrant that they can act inappropriately again? Okay, so this topic is it is a common topic and quite a relevant topic because many people, this is what we have to deal with in our day-to-day lives. The first question we have to look at is actually, what is forgiveness? And if we look at it, when do we need to practice forgiveness? Forgiveness always comes when a person feels hurt. We have to feel hurt in some way or another in order for us to then practice forgiveness. If I'm not hurt by anything that you say or any comments you make, then there's no need for me to forgive you. So it's all about me being hurt and then me learning how to heal myself. Okay? Now, when a person does something against me, they hurt me, they say some words, they criticize me, they betray me, I feel emotionally wounded. I am not physically wounded by this. I'm emotionally wounded. I feel betrayed. I feel I can't trust this person. I feel unsupported. I feel criticized, insulted, dishonored. All these ways are methods in which emotionally or intellectually we feel bruised. Yeah? And if we are to understand the process of forgiveness, then we should understand also how the physical body works. Because it's the same process, but it's done for the mind. So when physically I get hurt, when I get hurt, I have to remove myself from the danger. I then have to allow my body to heal and repair. And then I have to do what's called rehabilitation, physical rehabilitation. Yeah? Once I do all this, my body is now fit and ready to go back into the world. Now in the same way, I act in the world and I get mentally, emotionally bruised or battered. Yeah? And when I get emotionally bruised or battered, then what do I need to do? Take a break, remove myself from the threat, danger, hazard. Then I have to go through a process of healing and rehabilitation. Yeah. Then I become mentally strong to get back towards my duties or get back into the world. So when we look at what is forgiveness, forgiveness is essentially emotional rehabilitation. It is rehabilitation for your mind. Now the question always comes, do I need to forgive or should we always forgive? Now, if you look at forgiveness from this standpoint, that forgiveness is emotional rehabilitation for your mind after it's wounded, then the answer is quite easy to understand. It is yes. We should at all times undergo forgiveness. Why? Because forgiveness is actually our emotional rehabilitation. If I don't do that rehabilitation and I launch myself back into the world, then I go back into the world with what's called scars. Even physically, we call them scar tissue. And scar tissue it's a patch-up job which the body does to just quickly heal. But what happens is there's no strength. And scar tissue can easily be damaged again. There's no strength, there's no durability, there's no power, and it's not back in its original shape. In the same way, when I don't undergo the process of forgiveness, I develop this scar tissue on my mind. I can block it out, I avoid the hazard, I distance myself from the people that hurt me. I even come up with various methods to justify the way I behave. I justify that they had very wicked intentions. And in this way, I learn to put a scar tissue over that wound. And what happens is I limp on in life. I don't get back to full strength. I can operate, I can function. But if someone brings up that topic again, if someone presses on that particular part of my mind where it's wounded, you will find that the entire mind will again collapse. And we know that. We know that there are certain relationships that we have blocked out of our life because it has caused us so much pain. And we know that for years we continue on by avoiding that relationship, avoiding the issue, not talking about it, not dealing with it. And then one day or another, it just comes back up again. And a lot of times these things happen at family weddings. So family weddings are wonderful places where we get reunited with the family. And all of a sudden, some of the old issues of who didn't spend money, who borrowed money, who didn't return the money, who did what and who said this and who said that. All these wonderful issues come flooding back, and all of a sudden, my mind, the scar tissue breaks down and my mind is weak. It hurts. All of a sudden, I relive that pain again. So if forgiveness is a process in which I mentally heal and rehabilitate, then there is no real doubt as to whether or not is it beneficial. It is always going to be beneficial. Yeah? So forgiveness is always going to be beneficial because who is the one that is benefiting? It is the victim. The victim is the one who benefits through forgiveness. Okay? Now, where the confusion comes is, we often confuse forgiveness and pardoning a person as the same thing. Yeah? So to forgive a person and to pardon a person. To pardon a person is to leave their action unpunished. Just like when a person commits a crime and the state decides we are going to pardon them, then that crime goes unpunished. And this is where we get confused. We get confused between an act of pardoning and an attitude of forgiveness. So forgiveness is an attitude that we have to develop within ourselves. Pardoning a person is an action. It's an action. Yeah? So, as we learn to mentally rehabilitate, as we undergo the journey of forgiveness, in all these situations where I feel someone has hurt me, someone has wronged me, the question that needs to be addressed really is, how do I respond to the situation? This is the question that you have to address. And this is where there are two methods to respond. One is pardon, and the other one is punish. So the question really comes between pardoning and punishing, not really forgiveness. Forgiveness is essential because forgiveness is going to free me the victim. Forgiveness is going to rehabilitate me the victim. Forgiveness is going to strengthen me, who is the victim. So forgiveness can only benefit me. Pardoning versus punishing. This is where the question lies. Now, when it comes to whether to pardon and whether to punish, the first and most important thing is that I should have my mind under control. Whenever I act and my mind is not in control, which means I am reacting. Whenever I'm reacting to a situation, driven entirely by lower impulses, overwhelming emotions, a sense of vengeance, anger, when I'm driven by these emotions and I try to think about pardon and punish, you will find that your thinking and decision making is very skewed. It's very biased. And therefore, the decision you make at that time can be largely incorrect and lead to a regret. Later on, we regret it. And we think, I should have taken the other path. Yeah. Now, there's a reason why some of us are habituated to pardoning and some of us are habituated to punishment. And it's to do with our own inner nature, our own vasanas. Each one of us has got a certain vasana, what do we call it? Combination, permutation. Vasanas mean subconscious impressions. And some of us have got vasanas that are very, what we call proactive. We want to always see change. And we're very uncomfortable if things don't change, and they don't change immediately. So some of us have this nature. Things have to happen, they have to happen fast, they have to happen now. People must learn their lessons, systems must change. There's no time to wait. Patience is poor. Yeah? We're very impatient to change things. This is one character constitution. The other character constitution is the one who is very conflict averse. That over years has learned, you know what? Just leave it. Don't make a big deal out of this. Don't all of a sudden talk about issues that are old, dead and buried. Leave it. Why are you bringing this up again? So depending on our current constitution, each one of us have got a habit. That habit is pushing us in one direction. And the one direction is either to punish or the other direction is to pardon. Now this is happening by habit. And habit works very instinctively when you're not thinking. Whenever we fail to think, habit takes over. And we're programmed that way because habit helps us survive. Yeah? So when you see a child and a child doesn't know how to walk, it has to work so hard just to put one foot in front of the next foot, and all its attention is just on walking. Then as adults, we develop the habit of knowing how to place our feet and how to walk. And as we do that, all of a sudden it allows us to be able to do other things. We can carry things and walk, we can talk, we can walk, and if all of a sudden, if I trip, if I fall into a ditch, then all of a sudden, I may trip, but I can recover myself and continue walking, and it doesn't require a conscious thought pattern. So habits have been cultivated in one method to protect us. Yeah. However, habits are also very binding. They don't allow us to actually try new things. They don't allow us to adapt. Habits allow us to function effectively in the same environment. And the minute your environment changes, you're going to find your habits are not serving you. They are imprisoning you. They are imprisoning you. And that's why we have an intellect. Because our intellect can consciously override habit. And when it consciously overrides habit, it allows us to adapt to new situations and circumstances. So now coming back to the question is now not one of forgiveness, it is now one of pardon or punish. So the first thing is we have to be aware of what temperament do we have? What habit do we have? Do we have the habit of punishing? Or do we have the habit of pardoning? Yeah? We have to be very honest with ourselves. Then when we recognize this, there's a very interesting dialogue between Draupadi and Yudhishthira in the Mahabharata after they are exiled. And in this dialogue, Draupadi does give some guidelines, basic guidelines on when we should pardon and when we should punish. These are very basic guidelines, but they start off with a qualifier that each person has to assess the time, place, and situation. There is no real black and white answer. Each person has to assess time, place, and situation as to what type of response they're going to take. Pardon or punish. So she says, as per the time, as per the place, and as per what is appropriate social behavior, we will have to take this up. Now, these are some basic guidelines which may help us. Yeah? She says, whenever a person commits an offense for the first time offender, we should generally pardon. A first-time offender generally should be pardoned. Yeah? Because it can be committed out of ignorance, stress, various reasons. But a first-time offender does not necessarily show bad character. It could be an innocent mistake, negligence, a mere act of negligence. A person may be very careful all the time, and the one time they're not careful, they drop their phone. And that phone, they damage it. Sometimes we have children like that. The children are very careful, but the one time they misplace their book, they misplace their phone, even we naturally wouldn't go to punish that child because we know their history is that they are very careful with all their possessions. Just today something went wrong. Yeah? So first-time offense doesn't show bad character. It doesn't show a tendency to commit that crime. And therefore, she said, generally, we should pardon. She also said, those people who have helped you in the past, purva upakari, those who have helped you in their past, then when they commit an offense against you, you always have to consider the past help that they have given. And when they have helped you in the past, then yes, we should lean towards pardoning them. Because they have helped me, assisted, benefited me. Therefore, we should also look at our past history. And that's why in the heat of the moment, when I'm wounded and when I'm hurt, if I'm not able to recall the past history, help, assistance this person has given me, sometimes we act hastily and we act rashly. Then we regret. So she says the second reason where we should pardon someone is when that person is purva upakari, someone who has helped me a lot in the past. You have to take into account the weight of how much help they have given you. Okay? And the third one she says is when people commit crime out of ignorance. They were not aware this was the culture custom, tradition, rule, etiquette. Yeah. This happens a lot in the ashram. In the ashram, many times, especially with young people, we don't know the etiquettes. They don't know the etiquettes on how to greet the Swami. So sometimes now, we have also Zoom classes for them. And when I say Hari Om and finish, they say, Swamiji, Hari Om. And I said, I'm not a commander-in-chief in general. You don't need to salute me like this. I said, let's do this. Hari Om. So the first class, it was Hari Om, Swamiji. I said, no, let's change to this only. Let's, oh, God. Now after that, we finish with this. All different ways. Now, we can't punish them the first time because they don't know. They don't know how to deal with the Swami. They've never dealt with the Swami before, especially one on Zoom. Yeah? So, crimes committed out of ignorance, when they don't know that that's the case, that is the custom, the etiquette, that is how I'm supposed to treat you. In some cultures, elderly people are called by their first name. And we know in our culture, we never call elderly person by first name. That's wonderful, because when you grow up with such a large family. Why? Because everyone is uncle and auntie. And that's why sometimes people from different cultures ask, who is this person? Uncle only. Or the auntie came over them. And then people keep thinking, you have a tremendously sized family. Every weekend, different uncles and aunties are coming through. And I remember growing up, they used to say to me, all these people are related to you? I said, no, they're not related to me. But then how are they your uncle? I said, we cannot take their first name. So in some cultures, we cannot take first name of elders. In other cultures, they take first name of elders. So if that person comes from one culture, comes into another culture, they will invariably make lots of mistakes based on ignorance. We cannot punish this. This should be pardoned only. And of course, we should teach them. When crimes are committed out of ignorance, of course, you have to teach. Teaching is essential. Okay? So these are three reasons or three situations in general where we can pardon someone. Now, what are the situations where we can punish people? Because sometimes we like to punish people. So she says, when it's a second offense, that means first offense is done and now there is now repetition. Person does it again. So again, saluting Swamiji at the end of the class. Then all of a sudden, that becomes punishable. Then we have to sit there and say, hey, stop that. Stop the salute. We already told you this is not what we are doing here. So, crime when it is committed for the second time, then is punishable. You will find that even in our day-to-day law and traffic, you will find that if you're a first-time offender, they go very easy and sometimes they don't give you the ticket. But once you're a multiple offender and you've got a wonderful history of speeding and every 1 month you get a nice speeding ticket with demerit points and so many demerit points that you have to start handing them over to the rest of your family as dhanam. That is your weekly dhanam, giving out demerit points to the rest of your family, and even your child who's 8 years old and has no driver's license, you're trying to give them demerit points as well to save you from 3-month suspension. Once you have got multiple offenses, so second time offender, yes, she says we can punish. Second time offender can be punished. And the other one she says is when a person commits a crime with malicious intention. Malicious intention means intent to hurt. That means it's not done out of ignorance, it's not done because they're stressed, and it's not done out of negligence. It is done with deliberate intention to hurt. Then again, punishment should be given. Okay? So these are very general guidelines as to when we can pardon and when we can punish. And that really becomes the essence of what we're trying to figure out when it comes down to forgiveness. Of course, in order to be able to give such a judgment, we ourselves have to be very poised. We can't be reactive. We have to be in a very poised, a state of equanimity. And for this to happen, we have to first take care of our own mind and the pain that it's feeling. The pain that we're feeling because of this person. Now the question is, how do I gain this poise? And that comes back to the initial point of using forgiveness to rehabilitate yourself. And one of the methods of rehabilitating yourself and overcoming the pain that others have caused is to actually look into 3 situations where you have caused pain to others. I mean, you can look into any amount, but I've given 3. But situations where you have hurt other people, not necessarily this person. It may not be this person, but you have hurt other people. And when you look into those situations where you have hurt other people, look at what reaction and response you got from them. Yeah? Some people have forgiven us. They have forgiven us. And they've said, don't worry about it. It's okay. Leave it. And if I have bathed in the pardoning and forgiveness of others, then I should be able to pass that forward onto the person who has hurt me. That if I myself have hurt so many people, or few people, but many times and quite harshly, then if I have hurt others, others will also hurt me. Our pain doesn't always come from the people that we have troubled. Our troubles can come from different places, but they can still be karma phala for the pain we have caused others. So I may have caused person A pain, but person A I no longer have any relationship with. But the law of karma says that pain has to come back. And therefore that pain comes via person B. So I hurt person A, but person B is the one that is hurting me. And if I look at life in this way, from the standpoint of a karma siddhant, that I have committed an action and therefore there is a result that's going to come, then when you look at it from this standpoint, it's easier to deal with the pain that someone has caused you. Even if you can't see a cause for it. You may not be able to see a cause for it immediately, but it's easy to deal with because you know in the past I too have hurt others. Therefore it's just coming back. What goes around comes around. But it's coming from a different source. It's coming from a different source. So in one way you can look at it from the standpoint of karma. And a lot of times, especially when we are the ones hurting others, a lot of the times we are quite oblivious to the amount of pain we cause others. That we don't even know we have hurt others with certain words that we use, with certain looks that we give people. We don't even know that we have actually hurt someone. This doesn't mean we haven't done it. We have done it. We have hurt them, but we are unaware of it. So when we have hurt someone and we're not aware of it, it doesn't mean that karma is not going to come. That karma is still going to come. Just because you're not aware of your action, it doesn't mean your karma is excused. The phala will still come. Therefore, when someone is hurting me, one way to look at it, it is the result of a karma phala. And if it's the result of my own karma phala, then I have to face it. I have to deal with it. Yeah. And I can tell you in a relationship where this happens in a relationship, is our intergenerational relationships. As children, we do many things to wound, to disappoint, to aggravate, and to hurt our parents. And many times our parents will never do it back to us. Sometimes parents pass away. Sometimes parents, they become very peaceful and forgiving and they just pardon you on everything. But I have done the karma. I have agitated. I've spoken badly to them. I have misbehaved with them. They may never turn around and misbehave with me. But guess what? The karma is done and the phala still is waiting. So I have misbehaved with one person and now the result of that is still going to come. Where does it come from? From whom does it come from? No idea. And that's why sometimes people say it will come from your own child. Your own child will bring that phala and deliver it to you. That the pain you cause your parents, don't worry. Just have to. That's why our parents are very keen in Indian culture, get married and have children. Why? Because if you have children, all the pain you have caused me, those children will come back and get back to you. And then they will feel a sense of justice. That yes, now all the problems you caused me, someone's causing you a problem. And many people have actually told me that actually. They have told me that all the ways that they troubled their parents, they now have a child who troubles them in exactly the same way. So one of the ways to ease the pain is to recognize that maybe it's my own karma phala coming back. This is not necessarily easy. It requires quite a strong personality. The other way to help ease the pain and deal with the rehabilitation process of forgiving is to recall anyone in your life. If there's any special person in your life who has wholeheartedly forgiven you, they have with their entire heart forgiven you for whatever you have done to them. Sometimes grandparents can be very forgiving. Elderly people can be very forgiving. When I studied in the ashram, my acharya, my guru was very forgiving. We all made mistakes, but he was very forgiving. We were kind of scared of him because he had a very stern appearance. But finally, when you went to meet him, he was roaring like a lion. But when you met him, he was like a kitten only. Very, very soft. And many times, he has forgiven us. Gurudev's name, one of Gurudev's names is Kshama Shilaya Namaha, one whose nature it was to forgive. So whenever we have bathed in the warmth of someone who has got a large heart and can forgive and pardon us, remember that experience and bring that experience into your heart and hold on to it. You can meditate upon that experience. And as you meditate upon that very powerful emotional experience, it gives you emotional strength to overcome the pain that you are feeling in this situation. So by meditating upon a situation where you have been forgiven wholeheartedly by a person. The other thing to recognize is whether or not that person has hurt you out of deliberate intent, or is it a situation where I'm a little bit too sensitive? There are some people that are extremely sensitive to any comment and any type of behavior. So sometimes no one's done anything to them, but they feel they're constantly victimized. They read into behavior which is not there. You always ignore me. You never look at me. You never address me. Huh? So sometimes this is called unreasonable behavior because no one's actually offended you. The offense is sometimes partially imagination. That people are not out, the world is not out to torture you. But some of us feel that the world is out to torture us, and different people have got different agendas against me. But it's not necessarily the case. So sometimes we have to also look into a situation and ask ourselves, am I being reasonable? And that's the third technique. Ask yourself, am I being reasonable? Or am I being sensitive? Yes, there are some times where you are being reasonable. It is reasonable to be upset, to be offended, to be hurt. Yeah? And there are some times when it's just a case of oversensitivity. Yeah? So in this way, this can help you. These three techniques now I've given, there's even a fourth one. The fourth technique I'll give you to help mentally rehab is to understand the mind of the person who has hurt you. When you understand the mind of the person who has hurt you, understanding always helps to relieve anger. There are actually very few malicious people in this world. But there's a lot of people that are acting out of fear. And when we act out of fear, that means we feel threatened. And when a person feels threatened, it is animal instinct to become aggressive. When a person is threatened, it is animal instinct to become aggressive. Look at any animal. Yeah? The minute you threaten an animal, a lot of the times, some of them run, but some of them will bare their teeth and become very aggressive. And this happens with people. Sometimes we make innocent comments, and we don't realize in those innocent comments we have offended or threatened a person. Sometimes our own success is a threat to our colleagues. Sometimes the affection that I get from one child is a threat to my partner and spouse. Sometimes the affection I show to one member of the family becomes a threat to other members of the family who are not receiving that affection. We've all heard of sibling rivalry. Sibling rivalry is cultivated between siblings that are vying for the affection of parents. And so sometimes when I show a lot of affection towards one child or one person or one member, the other person feels very threatened. And in that threat, they become aggressive and hurtful. So when you understand the mind of the person who's wounded you or hurt you, you will find that as you delve deep into their mind and intentions, you'll understand it's just a lot of primal instincts that are working. And even for us, we also operate on primal instincts. Until a person becomes highly evolved spiritually and lives a very conscious life, we all operate on the primal instinct that if someone threatens me, there's an impulse of anger and aggression towards them. So in the same way, when I understand my enemy or the person who is hurting me, with deep understanding of them, you can actually learn to let go of anger towards them. And once you let go of the anger towards that person, you don't feel wounded. Like we all know, most of us will know, that when an animal is there, they can be very docile animals. Even deers are very docile animals. But if a mother deer is there and a baby deer is nearby, and you go near the baby deer, the mother deer will become very aggressive at that time. Very aggressive, because you have threatened her offspring. I know in the community, and I know when we live and interact with other families, sometimes we make comments that can be insults to other people's children. And when you make a comment which could be an insult to another person's child, understand the parents will get very aggressive. And that aggression can be in the form of insults back, bad behavior, gossiping. And it's these type of things which wound us. And we wonder why we are so wounded by this. Because I made a comment about this child. That's what it can be. I always have a golden rule: never criticize anyone who's not your child. Because it invariably never works out well. Yeah? And so, understanding the mind of the person who's hurt you is the fourth method that we can learn to rehabilitate ourselves. So, I gave 4 methods on how we can develop or how we can learn to forgive and heal ourselves. And then I've given some guidelines on whether or how to respond, whether we pardon or whether we punish. In this way, if you just alter the way you look at forgiveness, you will find it's a lot easier to deal with. The last question that had come up on this topic was related to, is there anything as an unforgivable crime? Is there any action which is completely unforgivable? And the answer really is no. There is no such thing as an unforgivable crime. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says in the 9th chapter, Api ched suduracharo bhajate mam ananya bhak sadureva samantavyo samyak vyavasito hisaha. Even if a person, apichet, suduracharaha, is the most evil, wicked, vile person. Sudurachara. Achara means conduct. Durachara, bad conduct. Sudurachara, one who is skilled in bad conduct. A PhD in bad conduct. A double PhD, doctorate. Yeah, expert. Their entire life has been one of horrendous crimes against humanity. Even such a person, Bhagavan says, Bhajate mam ananya bhak, if they worship me wholeheartedly, turn their mind towards me wholeheartedly, which means either turn towards God, Saguna Brahman, or they turn their mind towards the inner self which is divine. As you turn your mind to the inner self which is divine, you give up the concept that I am a sinner, I am wicked, I am vile, I am wretched. In the eyes of God, I am His child. And no child in the eyes of the father or mother can be seen as wicked or wretched. No child in the eyes of the parent can be seen as evil. It's not possible. Therefore, in the eyes of God, who is one of Karuna Sagaraya Namaha, ocean of compassion, there is no chance that we can be seen as villains. He says, turn your mind towards me, but do it wholeheartedly. Don't think this is some cheap pardon that go out there, commit crime, come back to your altar and chant one Kayena Vacha Manasendriyeva Buddhyatmana Va Prakriti Svabhava. Don't do that and then go back and commit the crime again. No, that's cheap. That's cheap. That doesn't work. Bhajate mam ananya bhak, sincerely change your ways. Sadureva samantavyaha, he should be considered a saint. Samyak vyavasito hi saha. One who has committed to changing their ways. And as long as you have got any level of commitment to changing your ways, then God Himself has said, I will call you a saint. I don't care what your past is. It is dead and gone. And in the lives of so many different saints, when we really look into their lives, we will find even in their lives, many blemishes were there. They say every saint was once a sinner. Every saint was once a sinner. Okay? So there is no such thing as the unpardonable, unforgivable crime. Anyone and everyone can be forgiven and pardoned for any crime or transgression. Okay? This gives us tremendous hope. That verse, I think it's around the 30th verse of the 9th chapter. Please look it up because it's one that inspires so much hope in our heart. Even when we sometimes look at the darkest chapters of our life, it can shed light that I am not a hopeless, helpless sinner, condemned to eternal hell. No such thing. Okay? So with that, we'll conclude this topic and question on forgiveness